Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sports Talk Podcast. Today, we are going over 4 mock drafts for fantasy football. All of these were on expert settings, ESPN, PPR, 10-person leagues. You can see them labeled at the top. First pick, 5th pick, 7th pick, 10th pick. Wanted to get a nice wide variety for us. And we'll kind of go through what makes each team good, what the weaknesses of each team are, and why I think each of them has the potential to win the respective league. Down in the comments, I want you to tell me which team you think is the best and what you personally would have done differently, whether you would have walked away with different players. Quick notes, I've highlighted the quarterbacks in blue, the tight ends in green, just to give you an idea of where I'm targeting these players. So, for example, you can see in that 8th, 9th round, that's definitely where I'm targeting my tight ends this year. I'm typically a Travis Kelce guy. I have been for the past couple years. I think the advantage he gives you as a second, third round pick is just phenomenal. However, I think there's enough tight ends this year that are serviceable that the gap is not as wide as it has been in years past. So Kelce is somebody I don't see me drafting nearly as much this year as I have in the past. You know, like I said, he's probably been on about 75 to 80% of my teams. I just don't see that happening this year. First pick, very straightforward. Wanted to walk away with 2 running backs in the first 3 rounds. The reason for that, if you notice in the 5th round, which is the Calvin Ridley, A.J. Brown, Keenan Allen, Tyler Lockett, they all play wide receiver. There's tremendous wide receiver value in the 5th. I probably will be walking away with a wide receiver from that round in any draft that I do, and therefore I want to make sure I get my running backs before that, if at all possible, which you see with the 5th pick is it didn't work out that way, and that's because Lamar Jackson fell a little further than I was expecting. McCaffrey, Eckler, great 1-2 punch, followed up with 4 straight wide receivers. You'll notice also that Michael Gallup is a guy that I got in 3 out of 4 leagues. He went right before me in that 7th round, in that 7th pick draft, literally right before the DJ Chark pick, or I would have had him in all 4 leagues. He's definitely a guy I see myself picking up a lot. That first pick, the David Montgomery pick is the only pick that I didn't like in all 4 drafts, and that's because Dak Prescott was available. Definitely was a mistake on my part not to get Dak Prescott there. That team would have been a lot better with Dak Prescott in that slot, and that's something that I'll definitely be adjusting. One other note, just from doing these mock drafts and why I recommend you do mock drafts on your own, you'll see that Darius Geis was selected in 3 of the 4. I actually did the first pick first, then the 7th, then the 5th, then the 10th. But Darius Geis being available in that 7th pick when I really needed a running back, it just opened my eyes kind of to how good of a lottery ticket that could be. Someone who definitely has the potential to run away with the job. Has a clear line to, if he runs away with it, 18 to 20 touches. Being drafted in kind of that 8th, 9th round slot. Definitely somebody I'll be walking away with more. That's why I definitely recommend draft on your own. Find somebody that you like who consistently falls and kind of have a plan to walk away with that player. You can see guys that I value very highly end up on a lot of my teams. Michael Gallup jumps out. Again, we've already talked about Darius Geis. Both of those guys I think are underrated. Guys that'll probably end up on a bunch of my teams this year. You also see I added a tier at the bottom for when I got Alexander Mattison. If you haven't watched my video about Alexander Mattison, you need to understand why you need to walk away with that player on all your teams. I do want to talk about the 5th pick draft in particular. Alvin Kamara goes. Dalvin Cook was the one pick that kind of jumped it ahead of him into the traditional 4 running backs. Then followed it up with back-to-back great wide receivers in my mind. Both of them wide receiver 1s. Phenomenal value. Lamar Jackson falling into the 4th. If that happens in my draft, go for it. The 7th pick draft, I actually made sure to get Lamar and Mahomes so that I could see how it played out. The 5th pick draft, Lamar falling was just, kind of gravy, so to speak. Making sure to walk away with him. A.J. Brown's tremendous value in the 5th, which leaves me with Jonathan Taylor, Darius Geis, who's my upside pick, and then I wanted to make sure I locked down that Colts backfield behind that offensive line, so I doubled down with Marlon Mack. That is the team that benefits the most from a Dalvin Cook holdout. Look at how good that team is if Alexander Mattison turns into the Austin Eckler, James Conner type that I talked about in that video. Look at how good that team could be with a pseudo number 1 running back. You'd have Kamara, top tier running back 1. You then have Alexander Mattison. If he's anything like James Conner or Austin Eckler, that's a great 1-2 punch. Chris Godwin, Kenny Golladay, A.J. Brown. Led off with Lamar Jackson, and then the tight end position of Hunter Henry, who's a fairly underrated tight end. Definitely think that is big value. Now, a couple other notes just so you guys can kind of see where my mindset is. When I had the first pick, I doubled down on quarterback because I got Josh Allen so late. Two things about Josh Allen. One, he is a lower tier quarterback, so I don't mind having a backup carrying that through the year. He also runs a lot, which makes him a little more injury prone. So I nabbed Daniel Jones, in the 14th round in that draft. Definitely something to note. Despite me just talking about running quarterbacks, I didn't get backups for Lamar Jackson, and that quite literally is because if Lamar Jackson gets hurt in those leagues, it's going to be rough for me to win anyway. So just kind of going with waiver wire luck in those leagues. However, when I drafted Evan Ingram, I did get a backup tight end in that league due to Ingram's injury history. I think Hunter Henry's gotten a little unlucky, so not in that league. But for Evan Ingram's backup, I got Noah Fant, and again, that was in the 14th round. The 10th pick, I think, is probably the most balanced team out of all of them. It's also the league that I decided kind of going in that I was going to nab Clyde Edwards-Helaire to see how it went. I kind of like it. Don't really know if that's something I'll run away with in future leagues. Again, closing thoughts. I want you guys to kind of pick which team you think is the best. To me, it depends on Dalvin Cook's holdout. If Dalvin Cook does hold out for an extended period of time, it's definitely the 5th pick in my mind. Other than that, I really like the 10th pick draft. However, again, closing note, something I think you should take advantage of as well. The 5th round, that's your wide receiver round. You're going to get a wide receiver who is technically a wide receiver 2. You could plug him at wide receiver 2. You could get tremendous flex value in that round. The guys I'm walking away with, Calvin Ridley, A.J. Brown, Keenan Allen, Tyler Lockett. Fantastic value, guys. The 10th pick, just a quick note, I would also consider Terry McLaurin in that group. Michael Gallup's another guy that I walked away with quite a bit. That's a guy that I would definitely target in fantasy football. He is just as valuable, if not more valuable, than Amari Cooper, who goes 2 to 3 rounds ahead of him. Michael Gallup, definitely someone to have on your radar. The other thing to note, again, I already kind of talked about Dak Prescott being available for David Montgomery. Definitely a mistake on my part. That's probably the tail end of when I'll be drafting quarterback is that 7th, 8th round. But be prepared for runs in your league. I'll probably be walking away. As long as one of the guys in that tier from my ranking list is available, probably be walking away with the quarterback by the end of the 7th round or the 8th round in my leagues. And comment down below who you think was the biggest steal in these drafts. For example, I definitely think it was ridiculous that Russell Wilson was still there in the 8th round or Lamar Jackson in the 4th. Comment who you think was the biggest steal. Comment which team you think was the best, and we'll see you on the next one.